Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's, I wouldn't say it's a presentation, it's more of an information presentation talk. Thank you, Leon, from the Friends of Khaudum, for once again taking the initiative to start this whole project. Today's evening is specifically about the game count procedures in Khaudum. As Leon told me, there's a lot of new people this year who want to take part in the counting process, which I think is absolutely fantastic. We've got quite a couple of people on Zoom. We are going to try to give those people also the possibility of asking their questions, of airing their questions. This will be a first for me on the Zoom side with people asking questions from outside, so I hope the technical side is going to work. But otherwise, Leon, I think it's over to you.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everybody. Firstly, I want to thank this whole crew from the Scientific Society to help us on a very short notice to avail the facilities, the venue, and to make the time available for us. Game counts, I'm not going to go too much into details. Basically, we need the Ministry of Environment needs data. The scientific services, they need to know how many elephants are there in the park, what's the trend, are they increasing at what rate, what are other wildlife species, are they being affected, what is happening in the park. So for that, they need the information. Now the park is quite big, and it's got like 14 waterholes or 13 waterholes and a fountain. And there's no way that they can ever on their own man all this for game counts. So this is where we as the private sectors, the public, where we come in to help them, to assist them to get this information. And it's vital for them to understand the whole drivers, everything that is happening in the park, so that then they can make decisions based on that information. So we started a couple of years back on trial and error basis, and we saw, but this is working, there's interest, the public is participating. And so eventually from 2019, we managed to do full moon waterhole game counts, covering all the waterholes. And I think it was 2 weeks ago, we had a presentation here by Norvald Jambo, who analyzed all that data and worked out statistically what is happening and what are the trends. And we had the presentation here. And today is basically just a add-on to this, as Ruth said. We need people, we need helpers, we need a lot of people. And there's interest from the public to join. And there was a request that for the newcomers that they kind of get their heads around this. How's this working? How do they prepare themselves? How is this done? So this is basically the purpose of today's presentation. Now, we've got three counts. It's always in the driest and warmest time of the year. That's when we know that most of the wildlife have to go and take water. And this is why it will always happen in August, September, October. A game count in March will tell you nothing. So we're trying to get the maximum number of game that's there to see the maximum population densities. So it's always August, September, October, and then it's always over full moon, because you need a bit of visibility. You cannot go at new moon where it's pitch dark and there's even smoke and there's dust and there's even already clouds. You will see nothing. So that's why it's always over full moon, and these dates we cannot do anything about. It's the moon that tells us when we do the counts. So for this year, the first one is from 9 to 14 August. The second one from 7 to 12 September. And then probably the hottest one, 6 to 11 October. the first date that is given on these schedules is always the day when you have to arrive in Sikireti. That's the southern station. And this is the day where everyone has to be in Sikireti. You should be there before sunset when the gates close, but it's best to be there like kind of by 5 o'clock. We are almost 100 people to cover these 14 waterholes. We are like 100 people. So there's a couple of empty houses, staff houses, which we allocate to the bigger groups, to the older people, to the injured people and so on. They get a house. And then there's a sports field in the station. And the rest of us, we camp on that area. And there's also a small ablution facility. So we're trying to take the pressure off just one ablution facility. So don't come too late. Don't only pitch there really with sunset. Try to be there by 5 o'clock. Set up, get into your house, set up your camp. I'll have some photos and so on where I'll explain to you and show you so that you can kind of get an idea. Okay, let's quickly run through the park itself. I don't know, what's the size? 300 and something thousand, 380,000 hectares. As I said, we've got 13 artificial water holes, and then there's a natural seep, a fountain, and these are those waters that we want to cover, because that's where we pick up all the wildlife. Okay, Ruth. The first one up there is the fountain, Khaudum Fontaine. That particular waterhole doesn't have any facilities. There's no height. So whoever mans that waterhole needs to be prepared quite well. You need to have quite a lot of camping gear, more than others where there's like heights, where you've got already a bit of a structure. But we'll go through. I'll later on show you some pictures of examples how people in the past prepared themselves for Khaudum Fontaine. But this is a tough one, but it's quite an interesting waterhole because there's a lion pride, the Khaudum pride, and they stay in that Omuramba, the Kwiba and the Khaudum Omuramba system. They move a lot across that waterhole. So they are seen quite often at that waterhole. Okay, next one. It's actually, there's a lot of water, but the main water source that is being used is this one on the left. And somewhere there in these bushes there, this is where you set up your camp. And for the 3 days that you do the count. Okay, next one. Saipan is an artificial waterhole. Those who know Khaudum, it's the one if you at the Khaudum campsite and you look down the Omuramba to the east, it's that waterhole that you see in the distance. It used to have a nice shade tree, and there's a ring trench, a ringsloot protection trench around the tree. Unfortunately, the tree died now, but still this is where you're going to set up your camp. That trench helps you with a bit of, even if it's only a perceived safety, but it helps you with safety. And the waterhole is down there. You're quite elevated, so it's quite a nice view down. It's a bit far compared to other waterholes, but it's quite a nice one. The lions are quite often here. Hyena up. There's a hyena pride that's now been seen there for quite some time. Wild dogs are quite often in this Omuramba system. So this is one of the, well, you also need to be geared quite well because there's no height, but your safety measures are a bit easier because you've got this ring trench. Then we've got Berkia. That's next photo. Berkia used to be there also used to be no facilities, and way there towards the the east, there's a like a big combretum tree, and that's where we used to have our hide. But there's now a new development took place. We've got a new hide now, and elephant troughs. So it's more in the center of that brown area, the grassy area. That's where the new hide is located, with water, the two elephant troughs very close to the hide. It's a bit far to the antelope trough. So for here, equipment, good night sight equipment, good binoculars and so on, is quite an important aspect. Okay. Doringstraat, another waterhole which has got full facilities now. I'll show you some pictures later. So full facilities. Next one. I included these pictures from the previous presentations just to already give you an idea if you the things you need, the things to think about, what you need if you sit there for the 3 days. You need to think about your toilet. You don't want to have it too far away from your camp, because if you have to go at night and there's predators around or a lot of elephant movement, you don't want it too far away. But of course, you also need a bit of privacy, and so this is quite nice. The observers watch the water and you watch their back while you use the toilet. This is just from a different a view from the water itself. Shade is quite important. Some cover to your back to prevent the wildlife to see you moving around. If it's free skies to the back, depending on the weather conditions, if it's quite windy, their senses are compromised, they are skittish, and even a movement might cause them to go away and they don't never come to the water. We'll get into finer details. These are just examples of that, how the previous groups provided themselves shade and to have some visual barrier. Okay. This is an example of elephants. It's quite a lot of elephants. Once they are at the water in this situation, in this scenario, it will be difficult to count. We'll get into more details of the counting procedures. I've got some other pictures where one can see the difference while the herds approach. It's much easier to count than once they're at the water, it's actually too late. You won't know how many adults, sub-adults and young are in that group because they are too close together and they move and so counting is important when to do that. Leeuwpan is another of the waterholes which has been upgraded. We will have sample pictures that can explain how it is at Leeuwpan. Then we've got Elandsvlakte. This is one of those. There's no facilities. At least, can take a next picture. At least we've got a lot of ring trenches, which again gives you a bit of perceived safety. And the area to set up your camp is right in front of these trenches here in that area. You are very close to the water. The elephants come to the fresh water, that little trough you see there. That's where the fresh water is pumped in. This is where they head to, and then they start to do mud bath and so on, and congregate around the rest of the waterhole. The nice thing is you've got a solar panel, you've got your pump, and you've got a tap right at your back. You don't actually have to carry water and so on. Every morning when the sun rises, you've got water. You can set up your kitchen in the ringsloot, in that trench, in the inside area. it's just your sleeping and your counting station and so on. You should put it in right in front, but you've got the safety towards the back. There's an example of previous counts. You can see here, this is on the edge of the trench. So you're sitting right in front of that. Okay. There's the solar panel and the pump. So one of the groups, they even put up their tents inside there. They slept inside, and they had the kitchen and everything right at the borehole. This is a view from the trench to the trough. It's very close. It's quite close. It's quite exciting, especially if you've got a lot of elephants coming to the water. Then we've got Dusi. Dusi has been upgraded. It's got a height. And quite, also nicely developed now. Then we've got Tarikora. Tarikora has, yeah, we've got a problem. There's many people that don't want Tarikora to be upgraded, especially the height. It's still got an old gumpole structure, and the water has been upgraded. We'll also have some sample pictures and so on. Then we've got Omuramba, which has been upgraded. Also very nice waterhole with a height. Elephant troughs nicely situated in the right view. Antelope trough, everything nicely arranged. Shiambi waterhole. That one is a difficult one, but the ministry staff, the park staff itself, we allocate them to there. And they man that waterhole for us. It's basically that waterhole, and they sitting across there, that small Omuramba system, and then they do the count. Okay, and we've got Sonkana in the south. It's also still got an old timber structure height under nice camel thorn tree and shepherd's tree that's half fallen over. It's quite nice to set up your camp there. There's a lot of shade. The water's a bit far away, but it's manageable. It's a nice waterhole. Then we've got Tswana Fontaine. Tswana Fontaine has in phase 3 of these parks developments, the park projects, we already had a exercise to put up some sample heights to see how they work and function. So it's got the oldest of the new height structures. It's also under nice camel thorn tree, and there's a lot of what's it called, the apple leaf trees around. So one can set up your camp nicely around there. There's the height. It's got this stone wall around. So inside here, you are safe. That's where you set up all your camp and so on. Between those trees in the back is where you can set up your toilet. Nice and high. There's a lot of tree mice there, so you must be careful. They like to eat all the stuff that you bring up there. This is an example of one of the first counts. They had this child with them, so they even fenced it off here for security purposes, for safety purposes. One disadvantage with Tswana is the elephants like to come late in the afternoon, all depending on the weather, of course. And they come on the western side. You are sitting on the eastern side of the water, sun sets, and this is the type of view you have. And it becomes also quite difficult to count. What is important here is to definitely have good binoculars, because it is quite far. Also the new water infrastructure is on the other side. So good binos are quite important here. This waterhole for 2019 and 2020, this Tswana Fontaine had the highest count of elephant. It was over 3 days they counted 1,200 and some odd elephant So last year it shifted now a bit. I can't remember now to what waterhole, but of course the year before we had so much rain in the park, so it changed quite of the dynamics and the numbers we observed and so on. But Botswana normally has got really high elephant numbers. Okay, how do we count? This is the count sheet, which I will email to all the captains. They will get the count sheet, and you will have to print out at least 12 of the sheets to be sure that you can record over the 3 days all your sightings. But I strongly suggest you print some on scrap paper, print some on the backside of old used paper, and use them as your worksheet. Because that sheet is lying there on your desk. It's windy, there's dust, you're drinking coffee, you're spilling something, and so on and so forth. And that will stain your sheet, and at the end of the day, this sheet will look quite crappy. Now you can imagine if a scientist has to now sit down and they've got maybe, let's make it easy, 10 sheets, and you've got 10 waterholes. So it's 100 sheets, and each sheet has got 25 recordings, where all that information has to punched into a system. It's quite a tedious work. So we need clean, proper, readable sheets. So this is very important. I'll show you later examples of a sheet that's really difficult to work with. And this is an example of a nice and clean sheet. So what you have to record on there, which is also very important, is the year, which is simple. We know the year. The start date is the start date of day 1 of that count. So like in August, we arriving in Security, what was it, 6, what was it? So 9, so 9, 10, 11th, the 11th of August will be your start date for day 1. End date is then the 12th of day 1. And at the end of the first 24 hours, you know now how many sheets you've got. Then you record on the sheet 1 of 2 or 1 of 3, 1 of 4, whatever. Number them correctly. This is for the filing system, very important. You put down all your observers that attended the count, and then of course your waterhole. So this is just that we can properly file this information and it can be traced again. We've got a book. We'll go through this also, and in that book there's examples of how to count, and then to differentiate between your adults and your sub-adults and your juveniles or young. So there's information in the book, and it's of importance that each waterhole has a book. There must be at least one book, and it must be not in the car. It must be on your counting table, wherever you sit and you do the count, because there's a lot of information in there that you will need. So for the newcomers, for the new groups, you must tell me how many books you want. They cost us about $300 now. We print them on a really durable paper, and so I can order them for you time in time, and by end of next week that I can give you these books. There's a lot of information, then you can start to train. Okay. This is an example of where one can easily identify the adults and the sub-adults and the young while they're coming to the water. But once they're at the water, there's already 1, 2, 3 herds. It's impossible to still do a count or any of these evaluations that you need to do. Okay, the itinerary. When you arrive in Security, as I mentioned before, the gate is there. There will be a person from the ministry with a list with the vehicle number and the occupants of that vehicle. So you identify yourself and that person will just tick off. It serves many purposes. I must know if all the people are there. Did everybody arrive? Is there still someone missing? Was there accident? Did something happen? And they also want to close the gate with sunset and they want to go home. So once they know, okay, all the people arrived, they can close the gate and they come and report to me and we know everyone's safe. So that's why it's important. The list we'll explain to you. We need a lot of information on that list, but that serves also many purposes. So once you're through that, just go back one. Once you're through there, it's not even 100 meters. You turn to the left, you come to that gate, and then you drive into the station. That's the station. We've got a few vacant houses. I will allocate them according to the age groups and the size of the groups. At this point in time, I believe we still got 6 houses. So 6 out of those 14 groups we can allocate. Sometimes if there's friends, they know each other, then 2 groups go to use 1 house. The reason is we've just got 1 small ablution block right here in front where the tents are. All the rest of us, we set up camp on the sports field. Okay, that evening it's a meet and greet and everyone's excited and you're seeing people you haven't seen for a long time and so on. You chat along, you have a couple of beers. There's a small fire, concrete slab in front of the common room. There you can make a fire, you can braai, you can go mad. You don't make a fire on the sports field, but if you want to braai, you can do it there. Please don't camp around the ablution block. Keep it a bit private there. Don't put your tent right on the backside. The next morning, 9 o'clock, everyone meets up with their chairs around this apron here. And from here, we will give you, that's where we collect indemnity forms, which I will also send to the captains. And this is where we will have a quick rundown again, just a catch up, a small training again. If there's any specific information, last minute information to be distributed, and maybe not in August, but in September and October, there will be some scientist who's doing work in the park. They will give us a presentation here. And from here on, somewhere between 11 and 12 o'clock, we are done. And then everybody heads out to their allocated waterholes. Now, that's still a day before the count starts. There's a reason for that. For those that are allocated the houses, once you leave the house in the morning or after the training, please close the windows, close the fly screens, close the curtains, switch off the gas, the bottle, the emergency gas handle, sweep the floor quickly. There are brooms in each of the houses. Leave it even in a better state than you got it. Okay? We don't want to mess up there and just leave. And so please, these people are accommodating us. We are their guests. Respect that. Treat them like this. Leave your house in a proper state. There's pedestrian gates and vehicle gates. Once you're out with your cars, close the gates. Leave it in a good state. Okay. What's next? Rules. Okay, we'll go through the rules, but I'll in a different document, but in the book that each of the groups need one, there are all the rules are printed in the book. Now, basic rules apply like in every park in Namibia. These are common things we don't have to talk about. And we know there's certain things that are quite important, that you may not have take firearms into the park. You may not fly drones in the park. There's a bit of driving tips in the book also for Khaudum, for those people that don't know the area. It's the further you go north, the more sandy it gets. So you need to have a bit of 4x4 driving skill, know to deflate your tires and that stuff. But the important game count rules, I'll quickly go through. First of all, adhere to the normal park rules, which are also printed here. No firearms, please. Whatever you bring in is what you take out. So you need to think about your rubbish. You need to think about your menu, and everything you do that's going to generate the rubbish, you're going to take it back home. You're going to take it out of the park. Okay? Try to have the minimum intrusion and visibility and noise. You should have fun, yes. But the more visible you are, the more you're intruding that area, the more you're going to potentially going to compromise your experience. Last year, it was really windy with all 3 counts. It was so windy that all the wildlife was like, it was skittish. And only when the wind starts to settle down late in the afternoon, then the game started to come to the water. Now, if that is when you are having a braai and preparing food and having a champagne and whatever, you're going to compromise that because everything's skittish, and you're going to compromise your own experience. So be aware of that and have that in your mind. How do I behave with my setup and while I'm there? You are intruding the space of the wildlife. We are the visitors there. It's their home. Respect it accordingly. Safety at all times. We are fortunate that it's not a regular visited park or all these waterholes like we know from Moremi and these places where so many of the predators, they've been so domesticated that they really become a danger. We don't have this situation, but still it is a wild animal. So we have to always be aware of this. When you set up your camp, think about everyone lives that way towards the water. Everyone looks at the water. Is your back covered? So think about these things as you plan your camp and so on. And you're not allowed to walk around because it gets boring and you sit a lot and so on. You cannot just now go for a stroll. I'm going to walk down this track here towards the other waterhole or something. This is all not allowed, and this is out of bounds. As we showed you, sorry? Yeah. As we showed you already on some sample pictures, your field toilet, think about your field toilet, how to set it up. Again, with a field toilet, you don't put the wipes or the toilet paper into your hole. No, you burn it. Or you put it in a plastic bag and you take it together with your rubbish. You don't put it in the hole. Because once we leave there, the hyena, they also want to eat. They come back and they dig open the hole and all that stuff is exposed. So nothing is buried, not even your toilet paper. You can have a small, these 5-liter jam tins or something where you put in the toilet paper and you burn it in there. And then the ashes you can just chuck out. That's fine. But don't put it in the hole. shower, if you take now all the fancy shampoos and things and creams and so on, and you do that every day, you smell so nicely, and the elephants will not know what to do with it. They'll all run away. So don't be too concerned about your hygiene. It can be smelly at day 3. It's okay. And with that comes, of course, the more you want to shower and wash, the more water you need to carry with you, the more equipment you need to carry with you. So these are all the things you have to think about. How are you going to behave on those 3 days? It's actually 4 days. We prefer you don't make a braai once you're at your waterhole. Maybe on that first day, which is actually still a day before the count, if you want to have a braai that night and so on, it's probably okay. But once the count starts and you have a fire and you do a braai, you'll probably also affect your experience. That's where it comes in. How do you prepare your menu? How do you prepare your food in the group? Are you going to pre-cook things and just warm it up? Are you going to just be so basic that you just live off bully beef or whatever? But this is something to consider as well. Also, the time when you want to prepare the food, you should also be able to do it in a very short time. Generally, what happens is later in the afternoon is when the game starts to come to the water. Now, this is typically where you would now also want to say, okay, let's prepare some food. But this is where everybody wants to see and count and have the experience. So you don't want to have a lot of action here in the back in the kitchen where there's 4 people involved in peeling and cooking and stirring and doing things, because everybody wants to see also. So think about your menus. How do I prepare myself? Do I have a bolognese prepared and it's frozen, and all I do is I warm it up and cook some spaghetti, and it's a quick thing, half an hour, and everyone has got his dinner. Simple things like that. You are not allowed to have spotlights for the night. You cannot have spotlights and shining all around. You get red lights, which you can use, but also be careful, because we noticed that elephants, they do pick up the red light. So don't shine on him when he's close to you. So red lights can work, but no spotlights. Then these count sheets. The way to go, I suggest, is you have got a lot of these, your crib notes, your record sheets. But next morning at breakfast, after breakfast, someone with a neat handwriting sits down and puts that down on a clean sheet, nice, readable. And you take along a plastic folder, something where you put it in. You put it in the car, you put it away, that it cannot be blown away by a wind or windstorm or rainstorm or something happens. Secure it somewhere safely. But also take a picture of your count sheet, just in case even something worse happens and that count sheet, all that information is lost. So also take a picture. And at the end of the count, you can share these pictures with me, and I've got a picture record of that in case between us collecting all the sheets and trying to get them to Norwald, and Norwald getting to Susue, and having work in between, and in case something happens, then all that information is gone. So just take a picture of each of your count sheets. We have age restrictions, as mentioned in that one of the slides. One of the first counts, we had quite a small child with us, and it caused a bit of problems, and it is a security risk. So there is an age restriction of 16 and older on for the game counts. there's a lot of people, they are well equipped with for camping, with nice camping trailers and so on. Just be aware that the northern third of the park is thick sand. You will be going on that after the training that morning. If you're on the north, you will be traveling up there when the sand is hot, when it's the most difficult to drive there. So all these big trailers and so on, just be aware of that. The same is if you come to, at the last day, if you come up to the Khaudum station where we collect all the sheets and we all meet up and have a nice campfire talk. By the time you leave your waterhole, if you're at the south, you'll only get there in the late afternoon when the sand is hottest. Be aware of that. Okay, no drones allowed and no drone flying and so on. And then a very important aspect is that whatever photographs or videos you take, it's for you. You may not use it commercially. You may not now take material from the game count and publish a coffee table book or a calendar or whatever. So whatever we do there, we may not use that commercially. And with that, another aspect is that we should be very aware of social media. Social media can so quickly cause us a lot of problems. The reason being that there's so many people out there that might now see whatever you post, but they don't know what it's all about. They don't know that we are officially there. We have to sit at the waterhole. We have to camp there. We're gonna have our tents and our cooking stuff and everything there because we are doing a game count. But someone who doesn't understand and know what it's all about, and they see this all of a sudden on social media, they start a big shitstorm. Sorry for the word, but that's what it is. And then it ends up that the minister has to explain. Then once it gets to the minister, then there's a big problem. And that will be the end of this opportunity and this privilege that we have. Because it's the only park in Namibia where we may do this. In the past, we had problems, stupid things, an article being posted on Gondwana, and someone thought, but why are we not mentioned? Because we paid for all this infrastructure. Why are we not mentioned? And it got to the minister, and now he has to explain. And so social media, when we do this, it will be the end of the count. So we must be very aware of the danger of sharing something on social media. Okay. Yeah, those of you, I don't know with the newcomers, if there's anyone who's got good what's it called, cameras and things, and is into photography. We will gladly accept nice pictures, beautiful pictures of scenes and so on. Because at the end of the day, somewhere in the future, we are planning to have a good publication, a good book, a coffee table book or something officially published for Khaudum. That will then go through the ministry, but of course we need the pictures, we need photos. So if there's anyone into photography and so on, and please share those beautiful pictures with us. Okay, we're also using some of them in the books as we update them and go along. You'll see in the book there's a lot of previous count pictures in there. Okay, now Ruth, maybe now you should go to, yeah. Oh, okay, let's quickly, yeah. With the gadgets, I can also, let's discuss gadgets. It can be hot. It can be very hot. You need a lot of shade. Think about shade. But at the same time, it can also be cold at night, especially like Tswana, those on the Omorambas. It can really cool off at night. So also have a jeans and have a jacket and so on, even if it's in October. Early morning, that dead shift, 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock and so on. And all of a sudden, it really just gets a bit cold. It can also rain. So always have that in mind. How do I set up my camp? Okay, I've got tents. These are waterproof. That's okay. I'm going to put up some form of a shade between cars and the height. But is that thing also waterproof? In case it rains, that whatever is under there, it's safe. Again, coming back to the kitchen, try to streamline your whole menu that you don't have to take grits, potjies, pots, pans, because all that weight you're going to schlep up there, you're going to carry it up there into the sand, and you're going to carry it back again. In the group, agree on how to make it simple. Not that everyone takes along his grit and everyone takes along his kettle and everyone takes along his gas bottle, because it's all weight that you're going to take along. Tables. Do you have enough tables? Do you have enough space for all this stuff? Stuff that you use regularly every day that stays on a kitchen table, and you've got a separate table, which is the counting station, where the two counters, the observer and the scribe, where they sit and they can do all the recordings. Think about this. Just one table in the whole group is not gonna, it's not gonna be sufficient. At night, you need to write down what you see. A headlight works quite well, but then make sure it's got a red light, because if it's just the white light, the moment you switch it on, whatever is at the water, they will pick it up and they will be disturbed and they might just disappear immediately. So a headlamp with a red light is always good. A clipboard to keep your count sheet firm, to keep it there in case there's a wind and sun, it doesn't immediately blow away. Have more than one pen, please. They get lost. You put it somewhere and it falls down, and all of a sudden you don't have a pen. So have more than one pen, please. Your power. The more gadgets, the more power you need. So it's always nice to say, I've got, I don't know, I've got spotlights and I've got cameras and I've got so many things, but all of them, they need to be powered over the 3 days. Now, it's not like normal camping where you would typically drive for a couple of hours in a day and then you set up a new camp and your car automatically charges your battery for your fridge. That car is going to stand there for 4 days. And that battery is going to run down very quickly. And in most cases, depending on how you use your fridge, how thirsty you are during the day, how often you have to reload, even solar panels don't make it. So this is also very important to consider. Are you having 2 fridges? Maybe the one is just a freezer. You just put it on freezer mode and you only go in there once a day to take out the meat or whatever that you want. And the other one is for all the other stuff. You'll have to pack your fridge in the morning with a reasonable cool beers. And if they're done, they're done. Because if you put in warm beers during the day, your system is not going to make it. It's not going to last. What works quite well is you get these silent pack generators. If you have one of these, an extension lead of like maybe 50 meters or whatever, you put it together with a toilet behind the blind. and you run that generator maybe in the night for a couple of hours or in the afternoon, whatever the case. There are water holes where there will be generators from the ministry to pump water at night. We'll come to that as well. So wherever there's a water hole where there's a generator, you can use that. But with the new facilities, the switch gear for the pumping system and so on is right under the height. And that's where the generator is. And these are not silent packs. So for those water holes, take along a lead of at least 50 meters, put that generator behind where you're going to set up your toilet and put it there, because you will have to pump throughout the night. So that generator has to run in any case. But they are mostly oversized. So there's a lot of electricity available. You can just plug in your fridge and your gadgets with that generator as well. Okay. Hello. There where we do have heights, it's quite nice to if you've got hammocks, you can put them under the heights. That's quite nice. Yeah. Yeah, this is something that we saw now over the years, that night vision equipment really helps you a lot. The more night vision equipment we had now on the counts, the more was observed. And especially we had times where it was already so cloudy that it was like a pitch dark night. And if there wasn't either red spotlights or night vision equipment, the people would have not seen anything. So it is expensive stuff, but there's things around. It does help. It's really of advantage if you have something like that. But you need binoculars. That's definite. And those with a nice and big diameters in the front, they let in a lot of light. So even at nighttime, you can see quite well through them. Yeah, and then yeah, you're camping, sleeping bag, all that stuff. What else? Hartmut? No, you guys, you always go and you like in a hotel. No, rather not ask you. Okay, new heights. This is just a drawing of what the heights look like. Most of them, they've got solar panels on top. Then you've got the height. That's quite nice. You're sitting a bit elevated. You've got a nice view. Under the height, it's open. That's where you can hang hammocks and you can sit down there. And the switch gear for the ball pumps, they're always down here. And that's where the generator normally stands. And that thing you just have to move, because you will have to pump at night in any case. So I will let you know shortly before we depart for each count what the situation is like, which water holes already needs to be pumped, and whether the ministry needs a bit of help from us. At the moment, they don't have money for fuel. So what we are doing is we take, like, for 3 nights, we take 60 liters of petrol. We just take it with us and we pump for those 3 days that we're sitting there. We pump the water for them. But we'll talk to that closer to the count. Wherever we have new infrastructure, it's quite difficult to get access to fresh water. But the elephant trough has got the outlet into the elephant trough is a 50 millimeter HDPE pipe. Now, that pool pipe that you use for your creepy crawly, that's got that white fitting on the one side if you want to extend, that fits nicely into that 50 millimeter outlet. So if you take one of these swimming pool pipes, in the morning, once the pump starts, the water in the elephant trough is down. You see water starting to come. There's no wildlife around. There's no game around. You can quickly go, put in that pipe, fill up a can or two, and go back to your hide. So there is a possibility to get water. Again, we don't know what the behavior is going to be at that time when we do the count. It might be that you've got a lot of movement throughout the day, and it's obviously not wise to go and fetch water. So it's always good to have enough water in store behind you. If you pump at night and there's really nothing happening, well, I wouldn't go there to the reservoir and go and fetch water at night, because you don't know what's around. So just in the mornings is the best time. Okay. Noch eins? Yeah. So this is we call it the emergency list. In this list, I will also email to all the captains. So it's important. I cannot speak to 100 people. I cannot organize 100 people. But I think I can manage 14 people. So I've got, each group needs a captain, needs a kamp commandant. And that's the identified kamp commandant, and I'm speaking to that person. So all the captains for the August count, they will get a sheet like this, and you have to send it back to me with all that information that is required. It's the name, the full name and surname as in your ID or passport. It's a cell phone number or telephone number where you personally are reached, or all participants. It's an email address for each participant. It's the nationality, and it's the ID number or passport number. Then medical concerns, whether there are any medical concerns that we should be aware of, your insurance, insurance company, your member name, your insurance number, and then contact person. That is in case of an emergency. So if a couple goes, don't put your wife's name on, but she's sitting with you in the car. That will not work, because if both of you are in an accident, or both of you get trampled by the elephant, or whatever happens to both of you, and we are in Khaudum and there's no cell phone reception, how can we, what do we do? So it's someone who's not with you in Khaudum, a contact person outside. If something happens, someone we can call. This is that contact person. It's not your buddy who's sitting next to you in the car. The relationship and the contact number of that person. Then we need to know, where are you sleeping on that last night of the count, when we all meet up in Khaudum? Now, not everybody can do that, and we appreciate that, but I need to know where you are going, because we've got a similar arrangement in Khaudum. There we've got more vacant houses, so at least we can allocate the houses to the guys coming to Khaudum. But I need to know how to collect. Where do I get all the count sheets? So if one at the south, Tsuanafontein, which is the most further south waterhole, if they all tell us no, they're all leaving for Tsumeb or for wherever, they're going out, I need to know, how am I going to make a plan to get those count sheets from Tsuanafontein? But if I know at least 2 of them are coming to Khaudum, maybe the rest of the group goes back, I'm fine. And I know maybe Sonkana is going out of the park, they're not coming to Khaudum. I can arrange that Tsuanafontein must make sure on the way up they must pick up the count sheets from Sonkana. So this is important that we understand where are you guys going, is to collect all the count sheets. Because once you're out of the park with your count sheets, it's going to take ages until we get everything together. And they must go to Susue. Now they're in winter. How do we get them to Susue? So this is important to have an understanding where you're going to. And then the vehicles, the registration number of your vehicle, and those people that are in that vehicle, you group them together. Because this is the information that with the entry on the first day, the person at the manning the gate from the ministry, they just tick off. They say, it's this car. Okay, it's you two. Yes, tick, tick, tick. We know you are here. It's the same with the last day once we leave. They will know there are certain vehicles that are going out on the last day already. They're not coming up to Khaudum station. So they want to know, are you guys safe? Did you come out? Or are you stuck somewhere? Did something happen? So they need to know, yes, you are out. So they can tick you off. Okay? So it's important that you do this proper, please. And please, the captains, don't send me your wife's cell phone number, but there's a digit missing. Okay. Or ID number. This first stuff, all that information we need for the park, up to the ID number, and then that overnight and the vehicles that we need for the park. For instance, I'm sending all this to apply for free park entry permits. We are not paying park fees and conservation fees when we're in the park, because we're coming to help, we're coming to work. But the ministry needs to know all the persons that are coming. So what I do when I get this back from you, the medical part and that relationship and contact, that I omit, but the rest I'm sending to the ministry. They give us the okay, they issue us the park permits, and they know who to expect, when to tick them off the list. The medical stuff is for your own importance. It's for your group's importance, that you know. If something happens to some of your group members, even you must be able to know what to do. Because sometimes you don't know them personally, you don't know who's the next of kin. So this is the importance of these sheets. So I'm sending this out to all the captains, and in the mail, I will ask for that information when I need it back from you guys. Okay. Okay, we've got some questions here.
Okay, so the first question I had here is the new information in the new book 2022, or is it the same as in 2021, as this person already has a copy of last year? That's the rule book.
Okay, we are not updating the book for this year. So the last year's book, the 2021 book, is still the same. There's a lot of information that we first want to refine and include for next year. So next year we will have a new book.
Okay, and then the next question was, can we also fill out the sheets finally in a digital form?
If you have a printer, with you and you print it for me there and then, and you hand it to me, yes. We've got a very innovative farmer. He's got his printer and his laptop with him. So he hands in his stuff in a printed form on that last day, yes.
Okay, and then the last question I had is whether this information that you've now given is open to the public, basically, whether we are allowed to send it out. The presentation that you now gave and the recording that we're now doing, if the people...
Look, I didn't have time to do a real good presentation. I would have done it differently, but I didn't have time. My last 2 weeks were hectic. You can share it, yes.
So rather, if a person has a question, they should contact you directly.
Yeah, that's better, yeah. Okay, what brochures? The books. Yeah, no, from the newcomers, they must let me know, you know, once they've now confirmed their groups, and they must tell me, sometimes it's just one person who wants a book, but often it's 4 persons who want a book. So I need to order so that I can print them, and then they've got time to prepare themselves based on all the information we have in here. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm just scrolling through the book. There's some other things that we can quickly discuss. We've gone through the rules. You can just page down. We've gone through the rules. That is important. There's a map in the book with all the waterholes, with distances between of all the tracks. We've got a history of the Khaudum National Park by the late Ben Beitel. Piet Beitel is here, his son, and Piet is one of the big drivers in this whole game count. Without him, or us together, we managed to do all this work. There's a bit of information on the Dorsland trackers, because they also traveled through the park, and there's even waterholes that is referenced in the old Dorsland track history, which is still today the same place names. Then we've got a bit of biophysical information where we've got some updates to be done. Then the list. Okay, that's the history from Ben Beitel. Then the Dorsland track information. Then the biophysical. There's a bit of updates we have, which we must still incorporate, but we will only do it for next year. Okay. There's a list of all the species of relevance that we need to look at and that we want to record. Important for the Germans and the Afrikaans people. Moenie eystervark skryf nie. Don't write, schryf nie stachelschwein. Nobody knows what that is. All the people that work with this information, we need to have it in their common English name. So we work according to these names in this list. Okay? All those printed in black, those are confirmed species in the park. There's a few red ones. They should occur in that area. That's part of their range, but they haven't ever been positively recorded, identified, and recorded. So that's why they are unread. We do have a new species which wasn't there before, which we saw now last year with the big rains. We all of a sudden have a common leshwe. Now what's it called? Yeah, the leshwe. We've got one in Tswana-Fontein. We don't know if it's there right now, but we had a migrant and we had a leshwe, so it's not on the list. But all the Tswana-Fontein counters keep an eye out for the leshwe. Then the vultures. If you can positively identify the vultures, then you can identify them according to the name, the species. But if you're not sure, then you just say vultures. So at the end, we want to just have an idea also of the vulture population in the park. But it would be good if you can identify them, the species. But if not, don't be too worried. Just put down vultures. Then the same with all your raptors and the birds of prey. If you're not sure, just say raptor, But if you can positively identify, you pen them down. Okay. Ruud, can you scroll me down further? So these are the species we are interested in. Okay, these are all the. Then in the book, we've got identification material. You'll be surprised how many Namibians, locals, claim to know everything, but all of a sudden we find strange things in the park. So we decided we must have this. Important with the hyenas. Good example, important with the hyenas. We have a spotted hyena, we have the brown hyena. So when you see a hyena, make sure to identify whether it's a spotted or a brown, or even the aardwolf. Don't just say hyena. That doesn't help us. We want to know, is it the spotted hyena or brown hyena? Okay? Not just, hyena. No. What is it? We need to know. This is very important. Okay? The same, we've got the African wild dog, we've got the side-striped jackal, and we've got the black-backed jackal, and we've got bat-eared foxes, and we've got Cape foxes. So be aware of this and have a look, and don't say, no, it looks like a jackal's. No, it's a black-backed jackal, or is it the side-striped, or is it even a Cape fox? What did you see? So it's important to have this book with you. So each group must have a book. Okay, if we go further down, we've got the honey badgers, we've got the civets, we've got the small spotted genet, probably the rusty spotted genet. We've got the striped polecat. We've got the yellow mongoose, should be there, but it's not positively identified. Slender mongoose, banded mongoose, dwarf mongoose. So just don't tell us, I saw a mongoose. Which one? Okay, there's a difference. Okay? Then where things become quite tricky also, especially at night, your oryx, your roan, make sure what you see. Okay? Even more difficult, the steenbok and the duiker, they come out at night. They don't necessarily come to drink. What happens is they mostly roam just the area. It's like a feeding and a socializing, but you also record them. But you have to try and really be correct in your identification. Now it's difficult, but you can practice. Once you have the book, you must start to practice, train your eye. At this point in time, there should be no more hartebeest. Piet? Okay. So there used to be with a wildlife, what's it called, introduction program and so on, translocation. There were, by mistake, someone put hartebeest in the area, but they should not be there. So they interbred with a tsessebe. So now we had hybrids. Because the hartebeest bull is much stronger and bigger than the tsessebe bull. So the hartebeest bull would just take all the girls away. But we eliminated whatever we found, and there's probably just 3-4 tsessebe cows left. Very important for the people in Tsau, Doringstraat, Leeuwpan. That's mostly the area where they are. Please keep an eye out, and if you see them, try to take pictures. Of course, on the pictures, Pete can also identify whether there's still hybrids amongst them. We don't think so, but if we have got picture record, we can be sure. Okay. Go further down. Many of these species, they don't really come to drink. They don't need to drink. But you often see them because they pass by, they socialize, so keep an eye out for them. There's a lot of spring hair. Basically, at all the waterholes, there's spring hair. Count them for us. But we just want the maximum count. We don't want to say we saw one at 8 and then we saw 7 at 10 o'clock and then we saw 12 at 2 o'clock and then we saw 14 at 3 in the morning. Okay? So on your worksheet, yes, you record them, but at the end, just give us the maximum number for that night. Okay, there's some of the larger birds which we want to record. With the southern ground hornbill, there's actually a project in the Northeast, a research project. I will also distribute this information or ID kit. I will also distribute this to you. What is important, if you can also do the classification on the age and the sexing. It's pretty well shown on here. So if you can do that, it will be appreciated. At night, you don't see colors anymore. It's just, you just see that shadow, that night shape. So what's also in the book is that we put those confusing species, we put them next to each other. And then you can actually quite easily see the difference between a leopard and a cheetah and your caracal and serval and so on. But only if you put these things next to each other. If you've got it there with you, then you can ID it. Okay? So it's also in the book. The same with the spotted hyena, the brown hyena, aardwolf, and wild dog. There's very distinctive differences in the body shape. But if you don't have this with you, you might not know. Okay. Same with the foxes. Okay. At night, the side-striped and the black-backed, sorry, you will probably not be able to see a difference. Okay. Oryx and roan. Tsessebe, as we said, hartebeest, there shouldn't be any. Steenbok and duiker. There is some difference. And this is what you should try and look at and say, which one is it, which of the species. Okay, further on. Guiding principles, okay. So you need to be 2 people on a shift. There's the observer, there's the person that's scanning the horizon, that's keep an eye on the landscape all the time, and there's the scribe. And what you do, okay, and we counting 72 hours. So we start 12 o'clock midday on the first day, over the night, midday, next day is day 1. That's the night before full moon. Then midday to midday the next day over full moon is day 2 on your sheet. It's day 2 with the right dates. And then from that midday to the night after full moon is day 3. So you as a group, you need to figure out how you're gonna group yourself and how you're gonna have the shifts. At night, there's normally you've got somewhere from say 10 o'clock at night until 5, 6 in the morning. These are the dead shift. This is where there's not the big excitement. But this is where all these elusive things come out. This is where you see the aardwolf. That's where you see the cats and all these small things. They come out at that time. So, but it's a difficult time. So to have 4-hour shifts at night might be a bit tough because it's you concentrate and there's not much activity and you get tired. And so think about how you work your shifts. Maybe to have only 3-hour shifts at night and have longer hour shifts during the daytime. what happens, you are so excited that first day, you in any case, everyone's awake and everyone's around and so on. But then after that first official night where you counted, you're out of your rhythm, you didn't sleep enough, it's hot during the day, you can't really sleep. That next night becomes more difficult. And that last night becomes even more difficult. So if you're a group of only 6, you need to really think about how you schedule your shifts. If you're 8, it's much easier because there's a bigger time span in between your shifts. Okay? In the book, there's an explanation of, I think, yeah, we'll have it now. I've got a condensed version. Okay, you can just go down. This I will also email to you. You just need one for the 3 days. It's the metadata sheet. Same information, date of count. There you use the first until the last day, the dates, the waterhole, the observers. And now you record the temperature, the average temperature during day 1 and day 2 and day 3. You record whether there was cloud cover during the day 1, 2, or 3. You record the visibility at night. Make your notes. And anything other than that, there's a lot of information that you can give us. I will add some more critical information that we need from you. I will add it to this list. Like, for instance, what equipment do you have? What visual equipment did you have as a group? Did you have night sights? Did you have red spotlight? Information like that. So it does make a difference if we know how well were you equipped. So if, for instance, on a couple of waterholes, we saw a lot of activity at night, but at this one waterhole, there was nothing, very little, and we can see, but you guys didn't have night sight equipment and so on. You are not that much geared and so on. And you can say, okay, that might have been a reason for that. Okay? So, but it's important to please give that information to us. One sheet for the 3 days, so you don't print one which you use your scrap paper and give us a clean sheet at the end of the day. Okay, next sheet. There again, we've got the count sheet. Now the order of importance of how you record your data. So the very first thing is, please positively, correctly identify the species. What you're seeing. Do you seeing an elephant or an ostrich? What are you seeing? Make sure that is right. Then the total number of the herd. That is the next important, the first level of importance is then the total number of the herd. The next level of importance is to divide, to identify now in that herd, how many adults, how many sub-adults, and how many young. Okay? If you're not sure, because it's already too dark, because the herd came in close, they all came in a close knit group, you can't really, you're not sure. Then you just leave the total number. Don't thumb suck anything under that next classification of adults, sub-adults, and young. It's only if you're pretty sure, according to that information that you have, yes, I could pose. I'm pretty comfortable that this is the numbers of those different ages. And only the next step is under the adults to identify how many males and female, and the same with the sub-adults. Young, don't even try. Okay? There's enough information in the book. This is one of the reasons why we are actually a day before the count, we can already go to the waterholes. Besides setting up your camp, try to practice as a group. Sit there and practice and do a bit of counting of whatever comes there and do the ID and the classification and agree to agree. Okay, yes, yes, I agree with you. This is a sub-adult, this is a young, yes. Get already a bit into practice. So print a couple of these sheets for practice purposes as well. So then when you start tomorrow, that you're not all of a sudden, shit, what's this now? And where do we go? And how many young and how many? And you start to even fight and there's more coming and there's more. And you get so excited. Do a bit of practice beforehand. You are there almost 24 hours before. Do a bit of practice. Okay? Then what you have to record also is the time and the direction of arrival. So when you get to your waterhole, you'll see that afternoon where the sun sets and you'll see the next morning where the sun rises, so you can get your direction right. Okay? Understand your direction, where you're sitting, your observing station, and where's the waterhole, and where's east and west and south and north, because you have to record to us where they come from. We don't want to have it in degrees exactly. We just need to know, did it come from the eastern side, and did it go off in the west, or did it go back to the east, or did it come from the east and go south? This is the type of information we want. It doesn't have to be precise to a degree. The same then with the departure, time and direction. Okay? And then you have to pin down whether that herd, whether they drank, or the individual. If it was drinking water, you just say yes, the why. If it didn't drink, if it was just passing by, which you will often have, often the giraffe, they come and they just pass by. There's quite a number of species, they just go past. So you record that, and you make a note there under remarks, it was just passing by, or it was just feeding, or it was socializing, whatever you observed. And there's an N for it was not drinking. And there will be situations like that where you will see something coming, and it hangs around, and for some reason it just goes on again. Write it down, but it did not drink. Okay? It will be difficult with the elephant herds to know. We don't working here too precise to say when did they drink and when did they leave. When that herd comes, you look at the watch and you say, okay, that's the time. Now they will drink, and then they start to play, and then they bath, and then maybe the first cow and some young wander off, but there's still a couple of them playing around here. And there's another herd coming, and now it gets confusing. Just try and keep more or less an eye and say, okay, but look, the matriarch, she left, she's now standing there at the tree. Okay, what's the time? Use this time. Don't worry about those three youngsters still playing in the pool and so on. They will go, don't worry. So don't try to be too precise and say, okay, but two left and another three stayed here and they only left 10 minutes later. Okay? The elephant bulls will give you a problem. There are certain waterholes where it will be difficult to keep track on the elephant bulls. There comes one, there comes another one, and all of a sudden you've got 7 or 8 of them at the water. And then they drink and they sleep and they fart and they hang around. And then all of a sudden one wanders off. Now, which one was it? The first one, the second one, the third one. So that can be quite tricky. But again, it's not a train smash if that information there is now not 100% correct. But those bulls, they hang around there sometimes for 2-3 hours. They just stand there. The other herds, they normally come in, they drink, take a mud bath, maybe socialize a bit, and then they're off. They normally don't hang around for long. Okay. There's like a short description of how to fill in the sheet and the level of importance. Okay. And then in the book, there's quite sufficient information how to practice and how to start to identify how to do your classification in your ages. There's for the elephants, there's different ways. Once you go through this and once you practice a bit, you get the heck out of this and then it works. For the round antelope, it's one of the iconic species. It's important. We want to know as much as we can from the round. So there's information on how to identify the adult male and the adult female, sub-adults, and the young. So try to do it according to this. The same then with the tsessebe. Same ID material, how to identify or how to do the classification. Then the same with the lions. Mostly it's not possible because mostly they come at night. All predators, all of them, if they come in the day, please take as many pictures as you can. There's a lot of research being done there. There's a lot of the lions, they've got a brandmerk on the boat. There's collars on the wild dogs. They've all got different patterns. So shoot away and take pictures as much as you can. And after the count, when you're all back in Windhoek or at home, send us those pictures, please. Because they are all useful in the identification and then in the movement patterns and all that stuff. Okay? Difficult, but it can be done. Sometimes you're lucky that they come around in the daytime. But on the lines, we know mostly what we have, but there are dispersal lines. I think there was now a week or so ago, there was southern Bushman land somewhere on Maheke where there's lions causing havoc and so on. These are not lions that we know from this area, so they might come from Botswana. So this might be, while we're doing a count, there's new lions in the park. So if you see lions and it's in the day, shoot away, take pictures. Okay? Right. We will have in the next book for next year, we will have much better information. Norvald has now worked through all that data. So we will now have better graphic presentation material, but we have already sent out her presentation and then the statistics. You all got that. You got it?
Yes, I got it.
Okay. It was, when was it? I can't remember. Last weekend. Last weekend.
Monday, Tuesday.
I've sent it the weekend.
What did you say statistics? What do you mean by that?
So the statistics from 19 till 21.
Yeah. Yeah.
Per waterhole.
Yeah, the presentation that was done, given by Norvald and the statistics. I've emailed that together with the report that Jeremiah did in 2019. I've emailed it to everyone that's on the Khaudum, Friends of Khaudum email. Okay. Okay, let's quickly then, I think we can close this. Now I'll just take you through some pictures. This is, for instance, a well-organized group that was sitting at Khaudum Fontaine, where there's nothing, but they had everything perfectly done. They've got shade, they are not visible, they can move behind there, they can do the waters down there. There's their count table, they've got all the important information there. This is, for instance, a group that was really well organized. Now, I know not everybody does have all that equipment, but this gives you an idea. This is also Khaudum Fontaine. This is now done a bit differently. But your back side, there's your tents. This is the front side. So if you move in there, the game does not necessarily see you. Solar panels, toilet there at the back. There's the wind net to just give a bit more shelter at the back. There's your toilet. There's the generator, so that can run at night. It's a bit away. And you see the backside of the camp is kind of closed. There's the drum. Put your toilet paper in there once a day. Just like that. It burns in there. It's good. Don't drop it in the hole. There's the inside of the camp. Your tables are always full. There's always your coffee stuff and this and that, but you need your count station right there, which just has to be there. That's where your information is. That's where your binos are, your pen and everything, your cameras. Yeah. Okay. The next one. This is an example of one of the new installations. So this is a picture from the height. The waterhole is now on the other side. This is the back side of the height. So you try to build your camp at the back. Try to keep it as close as possible. And yeah, you've got that inside where you can move around and so on, and you're not that visible. Okay. This is the front. You can see, try to close around the back. The water's on this side, and obviously your count station is going to be on top. So whoever counts sits on top. A small table works quite well. There are benches, but we found it's easier if you take your camping chair and a small table to sit on that, because the bench is quite long and heavy and so on. Sometimes you just want to move a little bit, and your chair is actually much easier. There, the tree, there's the toilet, that's, for instance, now a ministry generator that is actually used to stand under the height, but now that thing is quite noisy, and that if you have to pump water now the whole night, that's not going to work. So take a lead along at least like 50 meters and think about a setup like this, then it's out of the sound is away. Okay. There's a few more pictures of Elandsvlakte. Any newcomers for Elandsvlakte? There's the borehole. There's even a tap on there. There's the one trench around it, and there's another older trench on this side where the old bore was. There's access to there, and you can have your seating right in front here. There's water. Okay. This is basically where the car is standing. This is where you can set up your whole counting station and so on. You're quite close to the water. It's very close to where Christu is walking. And if the big herds of elephant come, it gets quite stressful sometimes. There's photos of a previous group. There's an example of how you can also do it, because there's water, so they took a little pool along. Yeah. This kind of gives you perspective how close you are. Okay. Welche Bilder haben wir noch? This is Tarikora. I think we will have new people at Tarikora this year. This is the existing height structure. Some nice trees. There's a cable fencing around the trees. So on the inside, you are safe. You can set up here your gazebo and your things. Park your cars on the outside. Maybe if you wish, have a bit of wind nets there. And then these bushes you see there at the back, that's where you can put up your toilet. But again, don't go too far. These bushes at the back, that's one where you can put up toilet. It's another group. Sit on top, take pillows or cushions along. There are like small benches, but it gets hard after sitting 3 or 4 hours. Or you take up your camping chairs. It's not always nice and easy because it's just the poles bolted together, so you don't have a flat floor. No, just go back one. There's an example of a new elephant trough and antelope trough in front here. This is an example of the new water installations. Now, early mornings, if there's no activity, the sun is up, there's already water pumping, you can go and get water at the trough. Okay? This is just some pictures of what you can expect at times. When the elephants are thirsty, they come in a close-knit family. It's going to be really difficult, but it's still the best time to try and count. And as they come down, you must just do your best you can to count them. Okay. Hatten wir noch eins oder waren das die letzten? Oh yeah, this is Boye. This is the waterhole that there was no water in Boye for 12 years, more or less. But then under the project, we had new balls drilled, and then we installed a new water here. So this is all new. Now last year, Piet and his crowd, they were the first ones to count. It was only completed in September. So in October, Piet and them went there and they saw lots of things. Nothing. But this year, because that area probably, because there hasn't been water for so long, the vegetation probably picked up and there was a lot of regrowth. This year, when we were there in May, there were many elephants. There were lots of elephants. So what you have is this height. From the height, you've got an elephant trough, you've got an antelope trough and a mud pool. That fence is not there anymore because these elephants, they didn't like the fence. So they already destroyed it for us. This is basically what it looks like on top. That table is not there, but this is an example of what you can bring along. There you can see the elephant trough. Here's the antelope trough. There's a lot of this bush has already been taken out by the elephants. So this was like last year, this photo. It looks different already. There you can see the fence at the back. It's already gone. This is what they did. So you can actually here also go with your cars right up to the height and put everything around the height. Okay, I think this, yeah, Tsuana Fontaine, just a few more pictures of that height, because there's new people at Tsuana. This is kind of the view. You can see right at the back, that's where the elephant trough is. The antelope trough is a bit more to the right. So it is quite far. So a good set of binoculars is quite important for you. There's also 2 of these benches. Oh no, it's actually 3 of them. So during the day, people are mostly up on the height and so on. So work out how you want to set up your things. It's about 6 meters long and 2 meters wide. Yeah. Now we talked about the count sheets. Now, if you look at this count sheet, and you've got 100 and odd of these count sheets, how are you going to record this information? Do you think this is a well documented count sheet? Or this one? And if you read through, you'll find funny names. And Novald she's Oshivambo. She learned in English. She doesn't know what the springhaas and the thing is and so on. So please keep to the English names. Yeah. This one. It's quite messy. And imagine you've got 100 of these sheets and you have to now record and punch all that information into a system. It's really difficult. So the type of quality of sheets we are looking at is like this one. Okay? It's nice. If you're not certain, like for instance, you see here is 19 elephant, but under adults and sub-adults, there's no information. You can already see it was at 12 o'clock at night. Visibility was poor. They were far. So you just record the total number. You don't record anything unless you are pretty sure what the classification is. Okay, another one. This is almost like printed. Real precise, good, nice work. Okay. There's another one which is quite nicely done. A lot of information on the remarks. This is the type of quality that we're looking at. Okay. Then, as I said, I'll share with you the ground hornbill information. This I will share with you. And if they come past the water, there are a couple of them in Khaudum. So if they come close enough and you can try and do this ID according to the spec sheet, it would be good. Done. Any questions? Okay. Just a moment, there's still a question. The question, there's a question whether the park is closed during the counts. No, the park is not closed. It's still open to the public. So you might find that there's tourists coming past, but they will be informed when they enter the park, when we are there, they will be informed that there's a game count and there's people staying at the waterholes, so that there's no confusion. And yeah. No. Ah, yeah.
I've got 2 questions here from the chat. Number 1, is it advisable to use a game camera, especially to identify game at night?
Yes, you can try, but the previous counts, people lost quite a lot of wildlife cameras. Because the hyenas, they don't like them, they chew them. And the elephant also don't like them, they carry them with them, they take them away. I think the year before last year, in one count, we lost 4 cameras of people who thought this was an idea. you have to put them pretty close to the water, and there's too many elephant, too many movement, you lose your camera.
Okay, expensive endeavor. And then the other one is, can we also share Dropbox links for sharing pictures?
Yes, yes. As we said, no social media, but again, we need a lot of information. So if you've got a lot of pictures from predators, or even those that are worthwhile to consider for publication later on, we transfer Dropbox and so on. Yes, no problem.
These night vision cameras, they might be quite handy behind your counting area, because you're not looking there, and then you can see different wildlife, and the danger of destruction might be less.
Yeah.
Last year, 3 hyenas were taken out away from our toilets.
Yeah, there's just a comment from one participant from last year that 3 hyenas just around their toilet. So they are there and they are inquisitive. We also had one at Saipan. There was a hyena coming right up on that embankment. So that's why I say it's a perceived safety, but you know, they're inquisitive and they smell something, they smell food and so on, and they come closer and closer. They push the boundary, and sometimes you just have to get up and chase him away.
Did you have an incident from an attack from an animal to a person?
No, luckily not so far.
And is there, I mean, if something happens, is there a signal network?
Network.
How do you
yeah,
communicate? if
thanks for that question.
Something happens.
There's only in the, maybe if you can put up the map. There's only in the northern part of the park, there's cell phone network. It will be Khaudum Fontaine, the Khaudum campsite, Saipan, Boye. There you've got a good signal. Once you go to Tsao, it becomes a bit dicey, but cell phone and WhatsApp and so on messages, they come through. The same with Leeuwpan and Doringstraat. So it's basically only those on top there where you will have cell phone reception. Everything further down, nothing.
Mhm. And what I heard, there was a fire in Khaudum. What happens if we are there and suddenly comes the fire?
Jump into the pool. Go swim, yeah. No, by that time, even if there is fire around the waters, by all the wildlife movement, the elephants and the herds of eland and roan and all that stuff, there's so little vegetation that can still put you in danger of a fire. So you should be fine. And the fires you saw, that's part of the early burning program to prevent later on bad fires that might hurt you. Okay.
Any more questions?
Anything else? We desperately need people still for August. There's 3 waterholes we need to cover, maybe 2, we'll see. And in October, there's potentially just 1 more to cover, maybe 2. We'll have to find out from Ushi whether they get a group together or not. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much, Leon. I hope you get all your people together. I had a couple of questions on the chat. Some of them I'm going to send on to you. We will have his email address and contact details if you don't have them already. And yeah, I really would like to be part of this whole thing, but I need to work. There, ask my boss.
Valdi, yes, we need a group from the Scientific Society, please.
There's one more person.
We are at this point in time, we don't want to distribute it this digitally. Maybe after we've done some corrections and some. Yeah, but there's also, you know, there's some
It's one
mistakes and some
document.
little things in. I don't want to distribute it digitally at this point in time.
So everybody who needs to have this book needs to please contact Leon
Yeah.
for a printed version of the book.
By Sunday, I want to know, because on Monday, I want to order the books.
Okay, and now it's time for some glühwein, Leon.
Yes, there's
Thank you very
glühwein,
much.
but Ruth, there's something else you have to announce, I think.
I have to? No, I don't have to. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here. I hope you still have a copy or two of glühwein, and then there is Valdi who still wants to say something from the back. Okay, so Valdi asked how many waterholes are still open, how many waterholes still need to be manned.
Okay, at this point in time for August, we still need to man 3 waterholes, the fountain and 2 waterholes. Okay, there's potentially one of the 2 waterholes is we've got a group, but I'll only have confirmation by Sunday or so. But there's also, like, if there's only two persons that want to come, but they don't get a group together, there's still any, for instance, for August for Tsuana Fontaine. She's got, she needs another 2. There's potentially in October, there's a group, they are 4. They can, if they've got 2, then we just need to cover 1 more waterhole. So the only thing I can say is if there's anyone, even if it's a single person or just 2 people or 3 people that is interested, but they don't have enough people to get a whole group together, let them just talk to me for August and October. September is fully booked. Okay.
Super. Now it's time
Thanks.
for some glühwein.
Glühwein, thank you. And for all the Zoom viewers, and good night.
Thank you.